Welcome, everyone. My name is John Reuter, and I run sales and marketing for Kyndi. I would like to welcome you to introducing the world's first generative AI answer engine for enterprises. Certainly, everyone is well aware of all the buzz around generative AI, ChatGPT, and so we want to show you today how to apply some of those underlying technologies to an enterprise to get trusted, accurate answers to your queries. I'll introduce our founder and CEO, Ryan Welsh, and our head of product, Mark Oney. So again, thanks again for joining. I'll turn over to Ryan.
Perfect. Thank you, John. So today we're going to cover several things. We're going to first cover why enterprises need an answer engine. We'll talk about our generative AI powered answer engine, and ultimately we'll show you a live demo. And so something to keep in mind for the live demo is that this is a product that's available today. And so you're probably seeing a lot of live demos of prototypes or beta software. We've been at the forefront of the natural language processing revolution for years now. And this product is available and used today by enterprises. And so let's touch on finding the right answers. And so we've been always thinking about how do we help users find answers to their questions. And we're not talking about getting search results back that you then need to sift through. We're talking about asking a question and getting a very specific answer. Today, that is very hard to do. But with the invention and ultimately rollout of large language models and generative AI, this has fundamentally transformed how we ultimately get answers to our questions. And so when we actually look at the world's data, I think everyone has seen this. It's been around for years, if not decades now, but 20% of the world's data is ultimately structured. This is intentionally structured so that computers can understand it. It's easy to process by a lot of software out there today. But it's that other 80% of unstructured data that is free-form text, emails, documents, policies and procedure documents, customer service, customer support, knowledge bases. All of that free-form text data is very hard to process by machines because they don't understand natural language. And it's even more difficult to search. And so you're often left with control F-ing your way or keywording your way through documents, which is just overwhelming for users, and you ultimately don't find answers to your questions. And this is very costly for enterprises. And so employees spend about 20% of their time looking for information or looking for answers to their questions. And so if you have 100 employees, you actually only have 80 because 20 of them are off looking for information constantly. And then when you think about your customers, they demand instant answers, and specifically, or especially over the last several years, as we've gone to fully remote working, and we call into places to get immediate responses to our questions. And so we see from the HubSpot survey that 82% of consumers want immediate responses to important or very important questions, specifically around sales and marketing. And 90% of people want immediate responses to customer service questions, but you ultimately can't get answers to those questions. And so what we're showing you today is Kyndi's generative AI answer engine for enterprise. And so this is an enterprise-ready solution powered by generative AI and large language models that provides direct, accurate, trustworthy answers to users' questions for enhanced decision support, productivity gains, and ultimately improved customer experience. And so we're talking about transforming the way that users find answers to their questions. And so again, if we think back to this search engine era where you type in keywords and you get a list of search results back that you have to ultimately scroll and sift through, that is the way of the past. We're talking about asking specific questions and getting direct, accurate answers to those questions. And importantly, for what we've built here at Kyndi is these are trusted answers. And so these are accurate answers from trusted enterprise content. There are no hallucinations with our system. This information, as we'll show you later, will also be up to date. And so it's not outdated information that can happen with large language models. And uniquely, this is a complete solution. And so I think one of the biggest problems in the market today is that if you want to build an enterprise answer engine, you have to build it. Your developers have to work with a data science team or a machine learning team to build embedding models. You have to store those embeddings in a vector database. You have to work with a large language model vendor to then output those outputs into a large language model to synthesize an answer. It's just a mess, and it's really, really difficult. What we're talking about here at Kyndi is a complete answer engine solution that reduces the costs and ultimately allows you to deploy, we found 9 times faster than ultimately building it yourself. And so how are we different than ChatGPT? And I will use ChatGPT as an example because everyone's so familiar with it. And so when you think about ChatGPT, we're talking about taking web data, training a large language model, prompting that large language model, and ultimately getting new and novel text out of it. I love using ChatGPT. I use it every day. It's great. One of the challenges that you see with it, specifically in the enterprise, is that it often hallucinates. And so it'll generate false answers and it'll be confident in those false answers. And so while that's okay when you're, say, planning a trip somewhere and you're just messing around with the system, in the enterprise, you can't deliver false answers to your customers. You can't deliver false answers to your employees. And so that's a significant challenge to ultimately getting these systems to work in the enterprise. Another challenge is that this information isn't always up to date. And so if you've used ChatGPT and you've asked it about up-to-date information or information that is available today, you'll see that it'll tell you that its training was cut off at the end of 2021. And so as information changes, you need to continue to update these models. And so that becomes very challenging because now you're in this big drawn out process of tuning the language model. And so what folks have started to do today is they've started to use their search engines, their enterprise search engines, to do a search of that information, bring back documents, and ultimately shove those documents into a large language model to generate an answer. And so candidly, a lot of the vendors that are using document retrieval systems and shoving those documents into an LLM, it's lipstick on a pig. If you shove 10 documents that are 10 pages each into an LLM, that LLM has to now synthesize 100 pages of information to ultimately arrive at an answer. You get mixed results. It's incredibly expensive because now you're putting all that information into the LLM, which then has to then process that information and find the answer. And so what we've built here at Kyndi is we call it an answer engine. And so we'll show you our storage and retrieval system. But what we're talking about is the ability to extract very specific words and sentences from the underlying documentation that answers the user's question. And so very specific sentences that answers that question. Those answers then go into a large language model to ultimately be synthesized into the single best answer for the user. And so uniquely with our system, we're able to show you which words and which sentences contributed to that answer. This information is up to date. And because you're putting so few sentences into the large language model, you get a very high signal to noise ratio. And so you're getting a lot of great information going into that large language model, which means you get the single best answer that comes out and ultimately delivered to the customer. And so at Kyndi, we talk about direct answers. I keep saying this over and over and over. We are shifting, the world's shifting from a search engine era that has dominated the last 50 years to an answer engine era. We believe that the large majority of search bars and chat interfaces in the enterprise will be powered by answer engines at some point over the next decade. Importantly, our system delivers these trusted answers. So the answer is rooted solely in your content. This isn't information that's generated from the web. This is trusted enterprise content. And uniquely, our system is able to be tuned and optimized for domain comprehension very easily. And so one of the biggest challenges with large language models is while they understand general language, they don't understand domain-specific content. And so you're in this fine-tuning process. Our system can easily be extended to understand domain-specific content. And so as an example, one customer we worked with took 6 months adjusting a system. And I think they had 5 or 6 machine learning PhDs working on that. With us, they were able to extend that language model in a few days and ultimately get it to understand the domain-specific content very, very easily. Our system has contextual understanding. So you start to get into not just understanding the meanings of words, but the intent of words or the intent of the meaning as someone communicates it. And so what this means is just with that contextual understanding, again, you get better search results, which then ultimately get turned into a specific answer. Importantly, and we're the only company in the world that does this, is we give you explainable results. And so we can show you which words and sentences in the underlying documentation was used to generate the answer. And so this increases the trust from a user perspective because they're able to see the answer and ultimately verify for themselves. It also helps with the management of the system as IT or anyone else working with the system is able to kind of see how it's doing on certain search results. And because we've built a entire solution, answer engine solution, you do get rich user insights. So we're able to tell you what people are asking of the content. Is your content accurately answering those questions? Do you have content gaps that you ultimately need to fill by creating new content? And so you get a bunch of rich user insights from the system. And as I discussed earlier, the ability to extend the language model to understand domain-specific content, that is done in a code-free tuning manner. And so you don't need to be a machine learning engineer. You don't need to have any expertise in data science. You're not tuning hyperparameters. It's very simple to tune and extend the language model. And then importantly, it's a complete solution. I always like to say that, if you wanted to buy a search engine, you wouldn't go buy the tokenizer, the index, the database, and the search user interface. You would buy a search engine. And so when you want to purchase an answer engine, why do you have to go purchase the embedding model, the vector database, the large language model, and the UI? You should be able to purchase an answer engine. And so Kyndi is delivering the first generative AI answer engine for enterprises. And just covering the architecture real quickly, because some folks on the call may be interested in this. Everything in that purple rectangle is managed by Kyndi. And so we're managing the large language model, the embedding model. Kyndi Cognitive Memory is a proprietary representation here that we have that is ultimately, you can think about it as a superset of a vector database that comes with a lot of unique properties. That cognitive memory allows us to explain why we're ultimately generating the answers that we're getting from the search. It also allows us to tune and extend the language model very easily, putting those relevant sentences into a generative AI model, which then delivers an explainable answer to the answer app. Embedding this answer app into any UI is about 3 lines of code. We obviously have a platform that developers can code against if they want to build things themselves. But it's very easy to get started with the Kyndi Answer Engine. The primary use cases that we've seen across customers is self-service customer support. So we've worked with large manufacturing companies here, significantly improving the amount of questions that can be answered by their users as they ask specific questions of knowledge repositories. The system can also be used internally by agents. And so if there's questions that customers can't answer in a self-service manner, they obviously will call an agent. And even empowering that agent with a better answer capability then allows them to resolve the questions much faster than they would otherwise. We also have use cases internally for employee self-service. And so we work with the United States Air Force and other large enterprises around empowering their employees to find answers to their questions in critical documentation. And so how do you enable employees to, instead of searching for keywords and being bogged down in search results, just very easily interact with the computer to ask a question, get a very specific answer to the question, be able to validate the answer to the question, and then make a decision or go about their day. And so there are countless use cases that you can use an answer engine for. These are the ones where we've seen the most uptick presently with our enterprise customers. And so with that, I'm actually super excited to hand it over to Mark, who's going to show you a demo.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So today I'll be demoing the powerful generative AI capabilities that are part of our Kyndi Generative AI Answer Engine. And I'm going to showcase 3 specific examples using a self-service use case that is built using content from apple.com's public website for the demo. If you would like to see a more comprehensive demo of our Kyndi Clarity Answer Engine than I'll be showing you today, please reach out to us and we can schedule a call to show you more. The Kyndi Clarity Answer Engine is a natural language and generative AI powered self-service product. And as Ryan mentioned, it's built on top of our best-in-class natural language platform. When we talk about Kyndi Clarity as an answer engine, in this case, looking at digital customer engagement that actually works, we're talking about serving website visitors to Apple's website. And there are 3 key benefits that we're providing. The first is our natural language enabled analytics, which allow you to align your content with the needs of your customer base. So this allows you to know exactly what content you need to create for your customers. And with that insight in mind, being able to draw a direct line from the questions your customers are asking and the needs they're expressing to the content and the quality and the coverage of your content, there's no more guessing at what critical answers your customers are searching for. Secondly, with that insight in mind, you can confidently create the right knowledge-based content to support those customer needs. I'll show you a no-code tool that your brand marketing team or your content team or your customer success teams can use to quickly and easily build out that right content. And finally, I'll show you our intelligent answers interface in the form of an easily embeddable widget. For end users, we're delivering grounded, concise answers to their questions, regardless of how they phrase those questions. And with that, your customers can more easily find the answers that they're looking for in one click. In today's demo, I'm going to showcase 3 specific examples of how Kyndi is using generative AI. I'll show you first how we deliver auto-generated summaries derived from directly from and exclusively from your content. I'll show you how your marketing team or your content or support teams can use the curator tool to quickly and easily add relevant answers to your knowledge base. And then finally, I'll show you an example of a copilot that makes building out a knowledge base directly from your content in a matter of hours possible. So to set up the demo, we imported content directly from apple.com's web pages. We created a knowledge base that consists of question sets and curated and dynamic answers. I'll show you some examples of that throughout the demo. And then with Kyndi, you can easily extend language model with industry, company, product, or use case specific terminology using no-code tools in real time. So Ryan talked about the fact that it's very easy for us to extend that domain-specific vernacular. In this particular demo, we've added references to Apple product names, to product features, tech industry and Apple-specific acronyms, and so on. As an example, a user might not remember that the product feature name voiceover is a feature that is available for vision impaired users. But in this case, a user could ask about setting up an Apple Watch for a vision impaired user, and we would make those connections and direct them to the steps to enable voiceover to be set up on their Apple Watch. So let's jump right into the demo. Let me move that out of the way. Let me first start on the Apple website. So if I go to Apple's website, and in this case, I'm interested in how long Apple's base warranty coverage is. I'm going to ask a question, and I'll type in, how long is the base warranty coverage for Apple products? I try to execute that, and it's not working. It doesn't like the question mark, so I'll get rid of that, run the query. And I see something about hardware warranty, so I'm going to click through on that. It's asking me to choose a product, so I'll choose a Mac, and then it navigates me down to this section. It looks like there's a link here to learn more. I'll click here, It asks me to describe the country or region I'm in. I'll pick English. And it takes me to a legal notice about warranty. So I'm really looking for a simple answer. How long is Apple's warranty? And I'm not able to find that very easily on Apple's site. One of the things you'll notice on Apple's site as well is it's a very media-rich site, which is pretty typical these days, but as a result, it's pretty text sparse. So for term search, it's really difficult to find the answer to your simple question, as I just showed you by trying to leverage Apple's term-based search. So let's jump over to the Kyndi side. What I'm showing here is our Intelligent Answers widget. And you can see that there's a section on top where I provide answers from the knowledge base when I have a very strong connection between the user's query and information within that knowledge base. You also see a People Also Ask section that serves up additional questions that are related to the topic that the user is asking about within their query, so I can explore a little bit further and learn a little bit more. So let's start with that same question. How long is the base warranty coverage for Apple products? Kyndi always delivers a depth and breadth of relevant results, and we do that by utilizing a rich set of natural language techniques. Here, we're adding the ability to auto-generate a concise and highly relevant summary based upon those results on the fly. So we can see right up on top, I'm
Actually,
getting
Mark,
a
can you
really
make it a
strong...
bit bigger? It's a bit small.
Sure, sorry, John. How's that?
That's great.
So you can see here, we're serving up a very strong answer. In this case, it's telling us that the base warranty is 1 year of hardware repair coverage and an additional 90 days of complimentary tech support. If I want, Ryan talked about explainability earlier, so we can drill down and take a look at view sources. These are the detailed search results that we returned to that query by looking exclusively at the Apple content that we've ingested. And so you can see exactly how this auto-generated summary was derived as a grounded, concise, trustworthy set of results. And I can also click through on any of these results and it'll navigate me to a specific page of a document or a specific web page that contains that relevant information that we returned. So let's try one more query. We're going to now ask, I'm interested in knowing what type of payment options Apple offers for an iPhone purchase. So I'm going to type in paying for an iPhone. What you'll notice is our intelligent type ahead is looking at our knowledge base and identifying questions within that knowledge base that seem related to the query I'm typing in. So I'm going to click on this first one, what financing options are available for iPhones? And here again, we see an auto-generated summary as well as additional relevant questions using, in this case, generative AI within our curator tool to be able to provide a concise answer for the question that we asked. And again, we can click through and view the sources as well. So now let's move away from the end user experience to our curator tool. As Ryan mentioned, the curator tool is a, let me exit out of this. The curator tool is a tool that's available through our administrative portal. And so I'm going to, and this is available to your marketing or your content or customer support teams. And what I'm going to show you now is how easy it is to be able to curate new knowledge-based content and create thousands of intelligent answers in hours within that knowledge base. In this case, I'm going to use that same query. How long is the base warranty for Apple products? I'm seeing here the same information that was returned to the end user within that Intelligent Answers widget. And in this case, you can see on the right-hand side, this summarization is an auto-generated summarization leveraging generative AI that is deriving a grounded and concise answer based upon the search results we see below. So you can see references in these search results, 1 year of hardware warranty, up to 90 days of complimentary tech support. We feed all that information to our generative AI and we come up with a concise answer. I now have two choices. I can click on Curate to take a snapshot of this answer and create a knowledge base question answer pair. Or instead, I'm going to click on Verify. And what this does is it creates a dynamic answer. So let's assume tomorrow, Apple decides that they want to extend from a 1 year hardware repair coverage warranty to an 18-month warranty period. This answer would automatically be updated based upon that change in the system of record and that source content to reflect the then current answer for customers. So it makes not only building a knowledge base very easy, but it also makes it very easy to maintain that content and keep it in sync with any changes that might occur in your source content. Now, if I jump back to the administrative portal, I can see that that particular query here is in draft. I simply go in and publish it. In about 10 seconds, that new answer is going to be published as a dynamic answer within our knowledge base. And as soon as that publishing completes, I can now jump back and refresh that question within the, excuse me, I'm gonna do that question that we just added to our knowledge base. And you can see now it's come back as a verified result, indicating that it found a strong match. Instead of generating that on the fly, that answer is now being served up directly from our knowledge base. Finally, if we go back to the administrative portal into our curator tool, we also have a collection of copilots that we can use, auto-generative copilots. And I'm showing you an example here, which is the Suggest Queries copilot. So this is a tool that you can use to quickly build out a knowledge base by auto-generating questions that your content can answer. So in this case, I've typed in Apple Care, and it's going out and looking at all of that Apple content that we've ingested, and it's coming back and saying, here are a collection of questions that this content is able to answer. So I can grab one of these. What are the benefits of buying Apple products? I can go back now to the curator tool, pop in that question, and you'll see that based upon the results that we're generating, let me zoom out just a little bit, you can see that we now have an answer to that question. So leveraging a process where we can type in different topics or different themes that are relevant to your end users, run those against your content, quickly generate question answer pairs that can answer that question, and then adding to the knowledge base by clicking either curation or verify, we can then build out a knowledge base of hundreds or thousands of questions in a knowledge base, literally in a number of hours. So there you have it. I've shown you our intelligent answers widget that can deliver your customers or employees concise, grounded answers. I've shown you an example of our growing collection of generative AI copilots that can enable building a robust knowledge base of hundreds of questions and highly relevant answers in a matter of hours. And we've seen how quickly and easily your teams can leverage your content to extend your knowledge base as the interests and needs of your customers change over time. And as exciting as all of that is, that's just a taste of what's coming. Ryan, back to you.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. So now we'll open it up for Q&A. I failed to mention earlier that There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. If you want to type in a question, we'll get to as many as we can. And if we don't get to your question during this session, we will email you separately and answer the question. So I will sort of look through the questions here. Ryan, this first one I think I'll ask of you. Do you use third-party LLMs for your LLM structure approach?
Got it. So there are two things that you want the large language model to do here, and LLMs are unique because they have these properties where they can do multiple NLP tasks. So the two things you want it to do is you want it to create the embeddings. Then in this instance, you want it to synthesize a single best answer. And so for the creating the embeddings, we've historically built our own large language models that people can use to ultimately create those embeddings, which then go into cognitive memory. We start with, on the generation side, we start with third-party LLMs for the generation, but we're working on actually bringing out private LLMs for enterprises. So we know that the enterprises want to, or a lot of enterprise customers want to keep that generation private on certain data. So we're enabling that capability as well.
Thank you. Then let's see. What type of structure? So let's see. All right, Mark, I'll ask this of you. What type of structure or analysis work needs to be done to capture, quote, domain-specific vernacular, unquote? How is that done?
Yeah, it's pretty simple and straightforward. First, our base language model, when we ingest a new volume, we're doing information extraction based upon that content. And our base language model actually captures a pretty significant amount of information or entities, things like people, location, time frames, measures, metrics, et cetera. So we leverage that very heavily. But then that last mile of language extension that might be company or domain specific, we have no-code, low-code tools that allow you to, a non-technical person, to be able to easily add language extensions. So adding, we generally can extract a pretty robust list of acronyms from within your content. Doesn't require any involvement on your side. If you have a glossary or something like that available for your use case, we can leverage that glossary to create extensions. But other than that, it's basically filling out templates with things like a membership list you might use for a list of product names, or synonyms, as the example I showed earlier, saying that voiceover is a feature that's synonymous with vision impaired users, or blind users, or Braille references, things like that. So pretty straightforward process. And again, extending that language model is something that we typically will do within hours, maybe a couple of days max.
Thank you, Mark. One person asked, is it possible to ask follow-up questions, or is it typically just one question and one answer? Mark, I'll pass that to you as well.
Yeah, today it's one question, one answer. But if you recall, the people also ask is very often kind of offering up questions that might be looked at as kind of a splash radius. So you're coming in with one question in mind. The people also ask can very often suggest questions that might reflect some follow-on interests or questions you might have as well.
And then someone just points out that the slide we're looking at, the links aren't clickable. True. We're going to share these slides with the group in the follow-up email, so all links will be clickable. So let's see. Ryan, I'll ask this of you. Does Kyndi Generative AI Answer Engine use customer data to train the models? If not, how do you ensure our customer and sensitive data is protected?
Yeah, it does. It does not use customer data to train the model, and so we're using the models to create the vectors. They're already pre-trained, and then ultimately we store them as vectors for storage and retrieval. It's actually a more complicated system that cognitive memory. We actually treat it not as just as vectors, but as this really cool graph-based semantic representation. So it's a bit of a hybrid approach. But all this to say that we're not then keeping your data as the parameter weights of a model that we then take over to another customer. And so we're just using that general embedding model to create the vectors, ultimately store that information, retrieve that information, and that Kyndi cognitive memory where your information is ultimately stored and retrieved. That is enterprise grade index for finding information and bringing it back. So it's enterprise ready in the sense that again, we're not taking parameters over to another customer.
Thank you. Mark, I'll pass this to you. Any plans to incorporate external ontologies? Would that be useful?
We don't import ontologies directly, but we can leverage those ontologies in creating those language extensions or annotators that we have. We're using what we think is a much more efficient and easy to maintain model with our annotators. You can think of it as a loosely coupled ontology that doesn't require any of the cost or effort typically associated with building out large ontologies and maintaining them over time. So we think we can accomplish many of the same goals with a fraction of the effort and maintenance over time with the approach that we've taken.
All right, thank you. The next one is, can Kyndi find answers in both internal and publicly available content for an organization? If so, how?
Sure, I can answer that. We have a number of different ways to bring content into the platform. So yes, we can ingest content behind your firewall that's proprietary to your company, but also content that might be available out on the broader internet. In terms of ingesting content, we can crawl websites, we can ingest a list of URLs, we can work with you to mirror content between a document repository and the Kyndi platform, so a SharePoint repository or a Confluence repository. And then these days, most CMSs and website builders and repositories support a JSON-L export. So that tends to be one of the more popular methods of creating those data pipelines between your systems of record and our platform, because we can support metadata fields as part of that feed as well.
Thank you, Mark. All right, this next question I'll answer. Are you offering any capability to explore or demo Kyndi on a non-operational basis in-house for free? So the short answer is yes. So we are sober to the fact that seeing a cool demo on Apple's data may leave you skeptical that it'll work on your data. So when we send out the slides, there's a way to schedule a demo. We would ask that we have a quick conversation. Our goal is we do offer free demos on customer data. We'd ask that it be just big enough that it will demonstrate the capability, meaning like we can't really look at your entire enterprise data for free, but we can look at a meaningful chunk and then demonstrate how the answer function and the analytics would work on your data. So when we send the slides out, there'll be a link to contact us. Please do so. Love to do demos on your data. All right. We have a little more time. Ryan, I'll ask this of you. Does Kyndi replace chatbots, FAQs, and IVRs, interactive voice response systems?
It really depends on the use case. And so there are some use cases where chatbots are helpful. An example would be cancel an appointment or make an appointment or cancel my subscription. Like there are these various like defined tasks that you ultimately want a system to do that you can kind of hard code with these rules, and that's pretty effective chat system. Now, where those chat systems fall over is with asking maybe more complex questions and getting answers. And so in some use cases, we actually are a complement to some existing chat systems as it pertains to knowledge repositories. So if there is a search bar for that knowledge repository, by and large, we are replacing that search bar. Those search bars are typically powered by keyword search, and no one can find anything in those with that capability. So we would not be the content management system. We would be the answer engine behind that search bar. And so some places we're replacing things, and in other places we're a complement. It really does depend on the use case and what's the specific thing you're trying to get the user to do.
And maybe just to add a little color to what Ryan shared, chatbots obviously perform useful functions. One of the reasons that they chat is because without an answer engine like Kyndi has behind it, they have to try to reduce the total space available to try to steer people to an answer, which is why they keep asking questions. What we offer is behind, like integrating with a chatbot, we, in theory, could avoid the need to chat. If someone asks a question, assuming the answer is written down, we can just answer it. So that produces a probably less frustrating experience for the end user. All right, I think we have time for one more question. And then, like I mentioned, other questions I'm recording, and we will answer them after the webinar directly. So this is for Mark. Mark, how long does it take to deploy Kyndi into production?
Oh, sure. We can deploy Kyndi in a matter of a couple of weeks. Really depends on your existing infrastructure and the style of deployment that we're talking about. But basically, it involves embedding the intelligent widget that I showed you earlier into your website or your intranet, creating content pipelines from wherever your content resides to the Kyndi platform, building out an initial volume and knowledge base, extending the language model with any domain-specific terminology, and running benchmarks. And typically, our services team will shoulder the majority of that work. So typically, where we get involved with a customer is really just helping them with a few lines of code to embed the intelligent answers widget, and then building a content pipeline between one or more sources or systems of record into the Kyndi platform.
All right, very good. So we're just at time here. So yeah, like I mentioned, there's a couple other questions we have not answered live here. We'll send those out to everyone in writing afterwards. So I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance. We've recorded this and we'll be sharing this with everyone so you can watch it again at your leisure at high speed if you wish. And you feel free to share the link that we'll be sending out with your colleagues. In the slides that we share, the links will be clickable. And as I mentioned, we would love the opportunity to demo on your organization's data directly. So please reach out to us, info@kyndi.com if you want to send an email, or on one of the links we'll send to learn more about how the Kyndi solution would function in your environment. So thanks, everyone, and we'll close the webinar for now. Everyone have a great long weekend. Take care.